quick safety announcement to tell you the boat's licensed by the Maritime Coast Guard Agency. It's equipped with a full complement of life rings, life rafts and life jackets. In the very unlikely event of an emergency, you'll be told how to proceed by a member of the crew. On our journey, I'm going to be pointing out some places of interest. I will warn you, we're not tour guides on these boats. We are only the crew of the boat. We like to point out places of interest to make the trip a bit more interesting. So when I make a mistake or get a bit confused, do bear with me. On our right-hand side, we're passing the Tower of London. Over the last 900 years, the tower has been a royal palace, the Royal Mint, an armoury, observatory, menagerie, place of execution, and home to the crown jewels. Traitors were tried at Westminster Hall, where we're headed. They were rowed downriver in a small boat, and they were taken through the entry to Traitors Gate to be locked up inside the tower, or they would be executed up on Tower Hill, or inside the tower on Tower Green. Contrary to popular belief, less than 10 people were executed inside the Tower of London. The majority of the executions took place outside of the tower, up on Tower Hill. Off to the left of the boat, we've got HMS Belfast. She was built in the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, the same shipyard as the ill-fated Titanic. She saw action during the Second World War, where she helped in the chasing and eventual sinking of the German pocket battleship Scharnhorst. She's now part of the Imperial War Museum. You can explore 9 decks of the Belfast from the engine room all the way up to the Captain's Bridge. Now the area on our left from Tower Bridge all the way along to London Bridge is London Bridge City, and it's a self-contained city. They have their own police force, they have their own fire brigade, they even have their own hospital. But surprisingly, London Bridge City is owned and financed by that great British institution, the Royal Kuwaiti family. On our right is a sandy-coloured building with golden fish for weather vanes. That's the old Billingsgate Fish Market. There was a fish market on that site for over 900 years. It's now moved to larger premises in the Docklands area, where it's still famous for its fresh fish and the foul language from its porters. Many famous Londoners started their careers there, including George Orwell, Michael Caine and the Cray twins, to name but a few. We're about to pass through London Bridge. It's the 5th bridge to span the river on this site. The first one was a wooden bridge built by the Romans in around 43 AD. This bridge was opened by our late Queen in 1973. It replaced the last bridge, which was found to be falling down. We did the only thing that we could think of. We boxed it up stone by stone. We sold it to an American company for £2 million. That bridge now spans the man-made Lake Havasu in the Arizona desert. Off to our left is a grey building called Winchester Walls. That stands near the site of the old Palace of Winchester. That was the London residence of the Bishop of Winchester. It's where you would have found his own personal prison, the Pint. And that was a prison for debtors and heretics. We're now passing through Cannon Street Railway Bridge. It's arguably the oldest and the ugliest railway bridge to cross the Thames in central London. It was designed by John Hawkshaw and it opened in 1866. In complete contrast, our next bridge is Southwark Bridge, which was opened by King George V in 1921. This is the narrowest and least used road bridge to cross the Thames in central London. The approach roads are so narrow and so poorly signed, not many Londoners know this bridge is here. If you do see anybody up there today, give them a wave, because they're more than likely lost. Off white building with timber frames and a thatched roof. That's a replica of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. That was the idea of Sam Wanamaker, an American film producer and director. You can see Shakespearean plays performed there in period dress and costume from only £5. That's excellent value for live entertainment here in London. Also on the left is the old Bankside Power Station. That was designed by Giles Gilbert Scott, but it closed due to the escalating price of oil. It's now home to the Tate Modern, the largest collection of modern art in the world. We're about to pass through the Millennium Bridge, locally known as the Wibbly Wobbly Bridge. That's because it was opened by our late Queen in the Millennium year, and it was closed by the police the following day because it wobbled quite violently. They had to close that bridge for 2 years. They spent millions of pounds dewobblising it just to make it safe. On our right we've got the magnificent dome of St Paul's Cathedral. St Paul's was designed by Sir Christopher Wren. It stands 365 feet high. It's the second largest unsupported cathedral dome in the world. The largest is on St Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. Now despite that, the foundations at St Paul's are only around 4.5 feet deep. Now we're about halfway from Tower to Westminster now. If anybody would like to use the toilet, go and use the toilet now. They will be closing in a few minutes. Once again, toilets will be closing in the next few minutes. We're now passing through the Blackfriars bridges. The first bridge is Blackfriars Railway Bridge, built to replace the old London to Chatham and Dover Railway. That was taken down because it couldn't take the weight of the modern day trains. The red columns are all it remains. This next bridge is Blackfriars Road Bridge, built at the request of Queen Victoria to commemorate a Dominican monastery that stood over on the right. The monks at that monastery wore black habits, which is where we get the name Blackfriars. Off to the left of the boat is a red brick building with a tower on top. That's Stamford Walls, locally known as the Ox Hotel. That building was a coal store for the famous Oxo company. When they had it designed, it was illegal to advertise on the banks of the Thames unless your company worked with boats. Now because Oxo makes stock cubes, they've got nothing to do with boats and they would take them off. They argued it was merely a coincidence that the windows on their towers spelt their company name. Now surprisingly, the judge actually agreed with them. They've had over 90 years of free advertising ever since. I think they got away with a technicality, something about gravy boats. But on our right we're passing Victoria Embankment. The embankment was built by Joseph Bazalgette in 1868. The Victorians encroached on the river, which allowed them to build the sewer system we still use today, and parts of the underground network as well. On the embankment we got that stone archway. That's Temple Stairs Arch, the western boundary for the City of London that we've just left, and the City of Westminster that we've just entered. Now the City of London is one of the smallest capital cities in the world, only 1 square mile. Off to our left is a large concrete building. That's the National Theatre. It was voted the ugliest building in London for over 10 years. That was until somebody finally built an uglier building downriver in Woolwich, which is actually a Tesco. This area off to our left is the South Bank Centre. They have over 5,000 performances throughout the year and some excellent street food markets as well. The bridge ahead of the boat is Waterloo Bridge. It's affectionately known as the Ladies' Bridge because it was built by the Women's Land Army during the Second World War. The ladies built the longest bridge in central London. It's just under 1/4 of a mile. It's also also one of the only bridges in central London to have been built on time and on budget. So well done the girls. Through this bridge, off to our right, is a building of a green roof and single flag mast. That's the Savoy Hotel, one of our more luxurious bed and breakfasts. The Savoy was opened by Richard Doyley Carts. It was the first hotel in the world to have both electric lighting and electric lifts as well. Also on the right is London's oldest landmark, Cleopatra's Needle. That obelisk stood in Heliopolis in Egypt in around 1500 BC. It was given to us by a grateful Egyptian viceroy called Muhammad Ali. That was after British victories over the French at the Battle of the River Nile and the Battle of Alexandria. You'll also find a slightly smaller obelisk over in Paris, which the French were given for coming second. We're about to pass through Charing Cross Railway Bridge. Through this bridge off to the left is London's #1 tourist attraction, the London Eye. Now the Eye opened in the millennium year. It was sponsored by British Airways. They sold the Eye because it wasn't making them enough money. But on a sunny day here in London, the Eye can make up to £16,500 in only 30 minutes. So I've got no idea what kind of money they wanted to make. Apparently that wasn't enough. Ahead of the boat